The iron grip on Elara's arm dragged her forward through the circle of wolves. Her bare feet scraped against stone. Cold bit through her thin dress. She kept her eyes down, counting breaths the way her mother had taught her. 1, 2, 3. Don't let them see you shake. The pack council stood in judgment before her, their faces carved from shadow and firelight. Behind them, the Alpha King's throne sat empty. For now. You lied on your entry forms. Councilman Marlowe's voice cut through the winter air. You claimed human lineage, no pack affiliation. Elara forced herself to meet his eyes. I didn't lie. Then explain why 3 members of our border patrol swear they caught your scent shifting 2 nights ago. Her stomach dropped. She'd been so careful. 6 years of hiding, of suppressing every instinct, of burying the wolf so deep she almost believed the lie herself. Almost. I don't know what they think they smelled, she said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. But I'm human. I've always been human. Marlowe smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. We'll see what the Alpha King says when he arrives. He stepped closer, and something hungry flickered across his face. He has a particular gift for sniffing out rare bloodlines. Ice flooded her veins. He knows. Somehow, he knows what I am. The crowd shifted behind her. Whispers rose and fell like wind through dead leaves. She caught fragments. Human trash. Shouldn't have let her in. Probably a spy. Her mother's final words echoed through her mind. Run, little Silver. Hide your light, or they'll hunt you until there's nothing left. Silver-blooded wolves were supposed to be extinct, slaughtered during the Purge 20 years ago, when rival packs decided their power was too dangerous to let survive. Elara had watched her mother die protecting that secret. She wouldn't dishonor that sacrifice now. I want a blood test, she said, lifting her chin. Prove I'm lying. Marlowe's smile widened. Oh, we will. But the Alpha King prefers to conduct his interrogations personally. A door slammed open behind the council. Every wolf in the courtyard dropped their gaze. Elara felt him before she saw him. A pressure against her chest, like the air itself had grown heavier. Her wolf stirred deep inside, clawing toward consciousness after years of forced sleep. No, not now, not here. She shoved it down, wrapped it in chains of will and terror. But her body betrayed her anyway. Her pulse quickened, her skin flushed hot despite the cold. Every nerve, suddenly, painfully awake. Footsteps echoed across stone. The crowd parted. Alpha King Kael walked through the circle like he owned the ground beneath their feet. Because he did. 6'4" of contained power, dark hair tied back, eyes the color of amber in sunlight. Those eyes swept across the assembly with the bored efficiency of a predator who knew nothing here could challenge him. Then they landed on Elara and flared pure gold. He stopped mid-stride. His nostrils flared. For 3 heartbeats he stood frozen, staring at her like she'd materialized out of myth. Elara's wolf screamed, "Mate!" No, 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 no! She slammed every mental door she had, but it was too late. Her body recognized him. Bone deep, soul-certain recognition that made her knees weak and her breath catch. This couldn't be happening. Of all the territories, all the packs, all the cursed twists of fate, her fated mate was the Alpha King. Kael moved again, each step deliberate. He crossed the circle in 4 strides and stopped inches from her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his body, close enough to smell cedar and winter night. His voice came out rough, almost angry. Who are you? The question hit her like a physical blow. Not what are you? Who? As if he already knew the answer to the first and was demanding the second. Elara met his eyes because she had no choice. Because running now would confirm everything they suspected. Elara Thorne, she said, just a human trying to survive. His jaw tightened. Gold bled through his irises again, wolf rising to the surface. You're lying. I'm not. You are. He leaned closer and his voice dropped to something between a growl and a plea. And I can't figure out why. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The mate bond pulled at her, trying to drag her toward him, trying to make her confess everything. She bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted blood. Alpha King, Marlowe's voice cut through the moment. Shall I arrange for the blood test? Kael didn't look away from Elara. No. Surprise rippled through the council. No. Marlowe stepped forward. My lord, if she's deceived us about her nature. I said no. Kael's voice carried absolute authority. No room for argument. I'll question her myself. Privately. Elara's pulse spiked. I don't consent to a private interrogation. His eyes snapped to hers, and something like hurt flickered across his face before the mask slammed back into place. It wasn't a request. He turned to his beta, a tall woman with sharp features. Cassia, clear the council chamber. Make sure we're not disturbed. My lord, protocol demands, Marlowe began. Protocol demands that I do whatever the hell I think is best for this pack. Kael's voice could have cut glass. And right now, that means figuring out what this woman is hiding, alone. He caught Elara's wrist. His touch burned. The mate bond surged, trying to knit them together, and Elara's wolf howled in recognition. She barely suppressed the whimper that rose in her throat. Kael's eyes widened. His grip gentled instantly, thumb brushing across her racing pulse. You feel it too, he murmured, too quiet for anyone else to hear. She yanked her arm free. I don't know what you're talking about. The lie tasted like ash. He studied her for a long moment, something unreadable in his expression. Then he stepped back and gestured toward the pack house. Walk, he said, or I'll carry you, your choice. Around them, the council watched with hungry eyes. Marlowe's gaze burned into her back. Elara had exactly two options. Refuse and confirm she had something to hide. Or follow the Alpha King into private interrogation and pray she could keep lying to the one person the mate bond made it almost impossible to deceive. She thought of her mother's broken body, the rogues who'd laughed as they killed her, thought of 6 years spent looking over her shoulder. She'd survived this long by being smart, by knowing when to run and when to bend. So she lifted her chin and walked toward the pack house. Behind her, Kael followed like a shadow, and Elara felt the weight of her secrets pressing against her ribs, wondering how long she could keep them buried when her fated mate was the one demanding the truth. She was dragged before the pack for lying. Then the Alpha King realized what she was hiding. The door to Kael's private study closed with a sound like a judge's gavel. Elara stood in the center of the room, every muscle coiled, ready to run even though there was nowhere to go. The space was larger than she'd expected. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 2 walls, filled with leather-bound volumes that smelled of old paper and expensive whiskey. A massive desk dominated the far end, dark wood polished to a gleam. Behind it, floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over packlands that stretched toward distant mountains, territory that belonged to him. Everything here belonged to him, including, if the mate bond had its way, her. Kael moved past her without speaking. He crossed to a sideboard and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. His hands were steady, controlled, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the careful way he kept space between them, like he didn't trust himself to get too close. Sit, he said, not turning around. I'd rather stand. That wasn't a suggestion. He finally looked at her, and the gold in his eyes had dimmed to something almost human. Almost. Please? The please surprised her. Alphys didn't ask. They commanded, took, dominated. She'd watched her mother navigate pack politics long enough to know that mercy was a tool, not a kindness. Still, her legs ached from being dragged through the courtyard. Her feet stung where stone had cut them, so she lowered herself into the chair nearest the door, perched on the edge like a bird ready to take flight. Kael brought her one of the glasses. Drink. She didn't reach for it. If you're trying to get me drunk so I'll talk. I'm trying to stop you from going into shock. His voice gentled. You're shaking. She looked down at her hands. He was right. Tremors ran through her fingers, aftershocks of adrenaline she couldn't quite suppress. She took the glass. The whiskey burned going down, but warmth spread through her chest, steadied her just enough. Kael settled against his desk, arms crossed, watching her with an intensity that made her want to squirm. "How long have you been running?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. Not "what are you?" Not "why did you lie?" Just, "how long?" "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." He tilted his head, studying her. "I've seen that look before. On rogues who've been hunted too long. On wolves who've lost everything." Something in his tone made her chest tighten, made her wonder what he'd lost. She took another sip of whiskey. Buying time. 6 years, she heard herself say. The truth slipped out before she could stop it, pulled by the bond or exhaustion, or the strange understanding in his eyes. His expression shifted, softened at the edges. What happened 6 years ago? And there it was, the question that would unravel everything. Elara set down the glass before she dropped it. "I'd like to invoke pack law," she said carefully. "Specifically, the statute that says a wolf accused of deception has the right to refuse interrogation without legal representation." Kael's jaw tightened. This isn't an official interrogation. Then what is it? A conversation. He pushed off the desk, moving closer. Not crowding her, but near enough that she could feel the pull. The bond singing between them like a plucked string. Between two people who apparently share something neither of us asked for. Her breath caught. "You feel it." "Of course I feel it." Frustration bled through his careful control. "You're my mate. My wolf recognized you the second I walked into that courtyard." He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "And you're terrified of me." "I'm not." "Don't lie to me again." The command in his voice made her wolf whine. "I can smell your fear. Taste it on the air. You'd rather face a blood test in front of the council than be alone in a room with me. Because I know what you'd do if you knew the truth." The thought burned through her mind, bitter and certain. Silver-blooded wolves were legend. Power condensed into flesh, capable of things that made even alphas nervous. Her mother had been able to heal mortal wounds with a touch, track a scent across 100-mile distances, move through pack bonds like walking through unlocked doors. Dangerous, uncontrollable, extinct. If Kael knew what she was, he'd have two choices: kill her, or bind her to his pack so completely she'd never be free again. Neither option ended with her survival. "I'm afraid because I have good reason to be." She forced herself to meet his eyes. "You're an alpha king. I'm nothing. You could destroy me with a word, and no one would question it." Something raw flickered across his face. "Is that really what you think of me?" "I don't know you." "Then let me—" He cut himself off, jaw working. When he spoke again, his voice had gone rough. "Let me prove you wrong." The offer hung between them, fragile and impossible. Elara wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly her chest ached. But wanting things was how you got killed. "Why does it matter?" she asked. "The mate bond is just biology. You could reject it. Find someone more suitable." His eyes flashed gold. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't talk about rejecting the bond like it's nothing." He moved closer, and this time she couldn't back away because the chair trapped her. "I've been Alpha King for 8 years. I've met thousands of wolves. And none of them—" He stopped, something vulnerable crossing his face. "None of them made my wolf recognize home." The words hit her like a fist. Home. She hadn't had a home since her mother died. Hadn't let herself want one. "Kael, just tell me why you're hiding." His voice dropped, almost pleading. "Tell me what happened that makes you willing to deny what we are." She opened her mouth, closed it. The truth clawed at her throat, desperate to be spoken. Her mother's voice echoed through memory. "Never tell them what you are." Never let them know. But Kael was her mate. The bond wouldn't let her lie to him forever. Sooner or later, he'd figure it out. And if he learned the truth from someone else? "My mother was murdered," she said. The words came out flat, clinical. "By rogues who wanted her bloodline extinct." Kael went very still. "What bloodline?" "Here." This was the cliff edge. Jump or retreat. No middle ground. Elara took a breath that tasted like ashes and old grief. She was silver-blooded, one of the last. And when I was 16, they found us. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Then shock. Then something that looked almost like awe. "You're—" The door burst open. Cassia, Kael's beta, stood framed in the doorway. Her face was pale, eyes wild. "My lord, we have a problem." Kael's attention snapped to her, alpha authority sliding over him like armor. "I said we weren't to be disturbed." "I know. But—" Cassia's gaze flicked to Elara, then back. "Councilman Marlowe just received a message from a rogue network operating out of the Northern Territories." Ice flooded Elara's veins. "And?" Kael's voice could have cut steel. "They're offering a bounty." Cassia swallowed hard. "For information leading to the capture of any surviving silver-blooded wolves." The room tilted. Kael turned to Elara, and she saw the moment everything clicked into place. The fear, the running, the desperate need to hide. "How much?" he asked, still watching her. 50,000 gold. Elara's hands went numb. That kind of money would make even loyal pack members think twice. "Who else knows about this?" Kael's voice had gone deadly quiet. The message was addressed to Marlowe specifically. But Cassia hesitated. "He was showing it to other council members when I left." Kael's eyes flared pure gold. And Elara realized with sinking certainty that her secret was already spreading through the pack like wildfire. Kael moved before Elara could process what was happening. He crossed the room in 2 strides and gripped her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Listen to me carefully. You don't leave this room without me. You don't speak to anyone without me present. Understood?" His touch burned through the thin fabric of her dress. The mate bond flared, trying to soothe her panic with the promise of safety in his proximity. She shoved it down. "You can't protect me from an entire council. Watch me." His voice carried absolute certainty. No doubt, no hesitation. "Kael, Cassia." He turned to his beta without releasing Elara. "Lock down the pack house, no one in or out without my direct authorization. And find Marlowe. Bring him to the council chamber in 20 minutes. Cassia's eyes widened slightly. "My lord, if you're planning to challenge a council member publicly, I'm planning to remind him exactly who rules this territory." Gold bled through Kael's irises again. "And what happens to wolves who threaten what's mine?" The possessiveness in that last word should have terrified Elara. Instead, something warm and dangerous unfurled in her chest. Cassia nodded once and disappeared, pulling the door shut behind her. Kael's attention returned to Elara. His grip on her shoulders gentled, thumbs brushing against her collarbones in a gesture that felt unconscious. Protective. "How many people knew what your mother was?" he asked quietly. Elara's throat tightened. "No one. She was careful. We moved every few years, never stayed long enough for anyone to notice." "Then how did they find you?" The memory rose like bile. "Someone sold us out, a wolf we'd trusted." She forced the words through clenched teeth. "He figured out what she was, saw her heal a dying child when she thought no one was watching." Kael's jaw worked. "And he went to the rogues. For 10,000 gold." The number still burned. Her mother's life, reduced to currency. They came at night. She fought. God, she fought so hard. But there were too many. His hands slid down her arms, stopping at her wrists. Gentle. Careful. Then he froze. Elara realized what he'd found a heartbeat before he turned her wrists over, exposing the scars that circled them like silver bracelets. Iron burns. Old. But unmistakable. They chained you. His voice had gone flat. Dangerous. Only for a few hours. The words came out mechanical, distant. My mother managed to break free long enough to get me out. Told me to run and not look back. But you did look back. It wasn't a question. Elara's eyes burned. I heard her screaming. Kael made a sound low in his throat. Not quite a growl. Something raw. He lifted one of her wrists to his mouth and pressed his lips to the scarred skin. The gesture was so unexpected, so tender, that her breath caught. I'm sorry, he murmured against her pulse. I'm sorry you went through that alone. The gentleness broke something inside her. A wall she'd spent 6 years building, brick by painful brick. You can't fight the council for me, her voice cracked. Kael, if you make me your responsibility, every wolf in this territory becomes a potential threat. 50,000 gold will turn allies into enemies. Then I'll deal with them. He lowered her wrist but didn't release it. One by one if I have to. You can't. I'm the Alpha King. His thumb traced circles against her racing pulse. I don't answer to the council. They answer to me. And if they have a problem with me protecting my mate, they're welcome to challenge me for the throne. The casual confidence in his voice should have been arrogance. Instead, it sounded like simple truth. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. You barely know me. The bond is it's just chemistry. You don't owe me anything. His eyes softened. You really believe that? The bond isn't just chemistry, Elara. He moved closer, until she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. It's recognition. My wolf knows yours, knows you're meant to stand beside me, and I'm not fool enough to throw that away, because some council members got greedy. She wanted to argue, wanted to list all the reasons this was a terrible idea, but the look in his eyes stopped her. He meant it, every word. This man she'd met an hour ago was willing to go to war for her. The mate bond sang with approval, trying to drag her toward him, trying to make her accept what he offered. Trust, protection, safety. All the things she'd taught herself not to want. I need you to promise me something, she said quietly. Anything. If this goes wrong, she swallowed hard. If the council turns on you because of me, or if the rogues come, you let me go. You don't sacrifice your pack for one wolf. His expression went very still. No, Kael. No. He cupped her face in both hands, forcing her to see the absolute conviction in his eyes. I've spent 8 years ruling alone, making every decision, carrying every burden, watching wolves I care about die because I wasn't strong enough or fast enough or smart enough to save them. His voice dropped. I'm not adding you to that list. Tears burned behind her eyes. She blinked them back. You don't know what you're taking on. Then tell me. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Tell me everything. What you can do, what you're afraid of, why you've been running. Let me help you. The offer hung between them, impossible and tempting. Elara had spent 6 years trusting no one, relying on nothing but her own speed and silence. The idea of laying all her secrets at someone else's feet. It felt like standing on a crumbling cliff edge. But Kael's hands were steady on her face. His eyes held nothing but patient determination. And the mate bond whispered that this might be the one risk worth taking. I can do things normal wolves can't, she said slowly. heal injuries that should be mortal, track through pack bonds. My mother could do more, but I suppressed my wolf for so long. I don't know what I'm capable of anymore. We'll figure it out together. The rogues won't stop looking. Marlowe isn't the first wolf to figure out what I am. There have been others over the years. I've always run before. You're not running anymore. His voice carried absolute authority. This is your territory now, your pack, and anyone who comes for you goes through me first. She searched his face for doubt, for the calculation that said he was weighing her value against the cost. Found nothing but fierce protectiveness. You're insane, she whispered. Probably. A hint of a smile touched his mouth. But you're stuck with me anyway. Despite everything. Despite the terror and exhaustion and bone-deep certainty that this would end badly, Elara felt her lips curve in response. The council is going to fight you on this. Let them. His smile sharpened into something dangerous. I've been too soft lately. They've forgotten what happens when they push me. A knock sounded at the door. Cassia's voice filtered through. My lord, Marlowe is waiting in the council chamber. The others are assembling. Kael's hands fell away from Elara's face. The loss of contact felt like a physical wound. He stepped back and straightened, alpha authority settling over him like a mantle. When he looked at her again, his eyes held nothing but cold determination. Stay behind me, he said. Let me handle Marlowe. Don't speak unless I ask you a direct question. Elara stood, legs steadier than they should have been. What are you planning? To make an example. His voice could have cut glass. So every wolf in this territory understands exactly what happens when they threaten what's mine. He moved to the door, then paused and looked back at her. Trust me, he said quietly. And God help her, she did. The council chamber smelled of old wood and tension. Elara stood 2 steps behind Kael, close enough to feel the heat radiating off his back. Close enough that her wolf could sense his, coiled and ready beneath his skin. The council sat in a semicircle, 12 wolves whose eyes tracked her movement like predators watching wounded prey. Marlowe stood at the center, arms crossed, expression carefully neutral. But his scent gave him away. Satisfaction, sharp and bitter. He thought he'd already won. Kael took his place at the head of the chamber, and the casual authority in his posture made every wolf straighten. Alpha King, carved from stone and will. Councilman Marlowe. His voice carried no warmth. I understand you received a message this evening. Marlowe inclined his head. I did, my lord, and felt it my duty to share the information with our fellow council members. Given the relevant nature of the content. Relevant how? The bounty specifically mentions a young female wolf, silver-blooded, last seen in the Eastern Territories 6 years ago. Marlowe's gaze slid to Elara. Approximately the same time our human guest arrived seeking sanctuary. Murmurs rippled through the council. Kael didn't move. Are you accusing my guest of lying on her entry documents? I'm saying the timing is suspicious. Marlowe stepped forward. And given the substantial reward being offered, I believe the pack deserves transparency. A simple blood test would settle the matter. Would it? Kael's voice dropped, soft and deadly. Or would it simply confirm what you've already decided is true? Marlowe's jaw tightened. My lord, if she's truly human as claimed, she has nothing to fear from verification. Except being paraded before the council like a criminal based on nothing but your paranoid suspicions. Kael moved forward, each step deliberate. Tell me, Marlowe, who sent you that message? Something flickered across the councilman's face. The bounty notice came through standard rogue communication channels. Anonymous, as such things typically are. Anonymous. Kael stopped 3 feet from him. How convenient. So we have no way to verify the source or the legitimacy of the claim. The gold amount suggests legitimacy. Marlowe's voice hardened. 50,000 doesn't get offered for fantasy. No, it gets offered for something valuable. Kael's eyes flashed gold. Something worth manipulating an entire pack council over. The room went very quiet. "My lord, I don't appreciate what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything." Kael's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. "I'm stating clearly that you received an anonymous message and immediately began spreading information that endangered a member of my territory. Without verification, without consulting me first, and with complete disregard for protocol." Marlowe's face flushed. "I was acting in the pack's best interest. You were acting in your own interest." Kael moved closer, and Marlowe actually took a step back. "Because here's what I think happened. Someone contacted you privately, not through standard channels, told you exactly what to look for and when, and promised you a cut of the bounty if you could flush her out." Elara's breath caught. She watched Marlowe's expression, saw the moment of confirmation before he masked it. Kael saw it too. "How much?" The Alpha King's voice had gone deadly soft. "How much did they offer you?" "This is ridiculous." 20%? 30? Kael circled him slowly. "Enough to make you forget your oath to this pack. Enough to make you willing to hand over an innocent wolf to rogues. She's not innocent if she lied about her bloodline. She sought sanctuary." Kael's voice cracked like a whip. 6 years ago, she came to my territory fleeing persecution. And you want to hand her back to the wolves who killed her mother? For money." The council shifted uncomfortably. Elara forced herself to breathe, to stand still when every instinct screamed at her to run. Marlowe's jaw worked. If she's truly silver-blooded, she's a resource this pack can't afford to waste. Her abilities are none of your concern. Gold bled through Kael's eyes. "She's under my protection. And the only thing you need to know about her abilities is that they don't belong to you." "My lord, you're being irrational." "Am I?" Kael stopped circling, faced him head on. "Let me be very clear about something. That woman behind me is my fated mate. My wolf recognized her the moment I walked into the courtyard. So when you threaten her, councilman, you're not just endangering a pack member, you're threatening your Alpha King's chosen Luna." Shock rippled through the chamber. Elara's heart hammered against her ribs. He'd just claimed her publicly, in front of the entire council. No, going back now. Marlowe's face went white, then red. "You can't be serious. A lying human." "She's not human." Kael's voice carried absolute authority. "And she didn't lie. She sought protection from wolves like you. Wolves who see power and think ownership. Who would trade lives for gold without a second thought." He turned to face the full council, and Elara saw the moment he shifted from mate to king. "This is pack law," he said, voice ringing through the chamber. "Any wolf who conspires with rogues against a pack member forfeits their protection and rank. Any wolf who accepts bounties for information leading to a pack member's capture is considered a traitor." Marlowe took a step back. "You're overreacting. And any wolf who continues to threaten my mate after I've made my claim," Kael's eyes blazed pure gold, "gets exiled, permanently." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Marlowe's hands clenched into fists. "You can't exile a council member without majority vote." "I can exile a traitor." Kael moved forward until Marlowe had nowhere to retreat. "And you crossed that line the moment you started working with rogues. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me exactly who contacted you, what they offered, and how you plan to collect." "I won't. Or I'll let Elara tell the council what silver-blooded wolves can actually do." Kael's voice dropped to something almost gentle. "Starting with the fact that she can sense lies through pack bonds, can track intent like a scent trail, and has known since the moment she walked into this chamber that you've been in contact with rogue networks for at least 3 months." Elara's eyes widened. She'd sensed Marlowe's deception, yes. But 3 months? Then she caught Kael's barely perceptible glance, saw the gamble in his eyes. He was bluffing, using her abilities as leverage. And it was working. Marlowe's face had gone ashen. That's not possible. Isn't it?" Kael tilted his head. "Silver-blooded wolves are legend for a reason, and you just tried to sell one to rogues for profit." The councilman's shoulders slumped. "Defeated. They contacted me 4 months ago," he said quietly. Said they'd been tracking rumors of a silver blood in the Eastern Territories. Offered me 20,000 gold for confirmation and assistance with capture. Bile rose in Elara's throat. 4 months. He had been planning this for 4 months. And you agreed. Kael's voice held no inflection. Just cold fact. Yes. Marlowe's gaze dropped. The pack's finances have been strained. I thought if I could secure that kind of funding. You thought you could profit off murder. Kael turned away from him, dismissing him with the gesture. Cassia? Escort former Councilman Marlowe to the border. He has until dawn to leave pack territory. If he's still here when the sun rises, consider him rogue. 2 guards materialized from the shadows and gripped Marlowe's arms. The former councilman's face twisted with rage. You're making a mistake. Those rogues won't stop coming. And when they tear through this territory looking for her, remember that I tried to save you from this. Kael's expression didn't change. Get him out of my sight. They dragged Marlowe toward the door. His voice echoed back, desperate and venomous. She'll destroy you. Just like her mother destroyed everyone who tried to protect her. Silver bloods are poison. The door slammed shut, cutting off his words. Silence filled the chamber. Kael turned to face the remaining council members, and Elara saw exhaustion flicker across his face before the mask settled back into place. Does anyone else have concerns about my choice of mate? His voice carried quiet challenge. Now would be the time to speak. No one moved. Good. He glanced at Elara, something warm breaking through his alpha authority. Then this meeting is adjourned. And someone find out who else Marlowe was communicating with. I want names by morning. The council filed out quickly, avoiding eye contact. Within moments, the chamber stood empty, except for Elara and Kael. She stared at him, heart still racing. You just exiled a council member for me. I exiled a traitor. He closed the distance between them. There's a difference. Kael. He would have sold you to rogues. His hands found her shoulders, grip gentle but grounding. For money. I don't tolerate that kind of betrayal. The council will remember this. Use it against you. Let them try. His thumb brushed her collarbone. I meant what I said in there. You're my mate, my Luna. And I will burn this entire territory to ash before I let anyone take you. The fierce protectiveness in his voice made her chest tight. You barely know me, she whispered. I know enough. His eyes softened, and I'm willing to learn the rest. Continuation, sections 5 to 5. The hours after Marlowe's exile blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and adrenaline crash. Elara sat in Kael's private quarters because he'd refused to let her return to the guest barracks. Too exposed, he'd said. Too many unknowns about who else Marlowe had been talking to. She didn't have the energy to argue. Now she perched on the edge of an oversized leather couch, watching dawn paint the sky beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. The view stretched across packlands that looked deceptively peaceful in early light. Somewhere out there, rogues were planning how to collect 50,000 gold, and she'd just made herself the most visible target in the territory. The door opened quietly. Kael entered carrying 2 mugs that smelled like coffee and something herbal. He'd changed out of his formal alpha attire into simple dark clothes that made him look younger, more human, except for the eyes that still carried traces of gold. You should sleep, he said, offering her one of the mugs. So should you. She accepted it, wrapping both hands around the warmth. How long have you been awake? 36 hours, give or take. He settled into the chair across from her, close but not crowding. Cassia's coordinating patrols. We've doubled guards on all borders and set up checkpoints at major access roads. Elara's throat tightened. You're turning your territory into a fortress because of me. I'm protecting what's mine. His voice held no room for argument. There's a difference. She stared into her mug. The liquid inside was some kind of chamomile blend, probably meant to help her relax. As if tea could fix the mess she'd brought to his doorstep. Tell me about your mother. The request caught her off guard. She looked up, found him watching her with quiet attention. Why? Because you've spent 6 years running from her memory. His voice gentled. And I'd like to know who she was, beyond what the rogues made her. Something in Elara's chest cracked open. No one had asked about her mother in years. Most wolves only cared about what silver bloods could do, never who they'd been. She was gentle, Elara heard herself say, which sounds stupid considering what she was capable of. But she healed anything that crossed her path. Birds with broken wings, deer caught in traps, wolves injured in territory disputes. A sad smile tugged at her mouth. She couldn't stand seeing things in pain. Kael's expression softened. Sounds like someone else I know. I'm not like her. No? He tilted his head. You've been hiding for 6 years specifically so you wouldn't have to use your abilities. Because using them means revealing what you are, which puts you in danger. You'd rather suffer alone than risk hurting others. The observation hit too close. Elara looked away. That's just survival. That's compassion. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Your mother would be proud of you. Tears burned behind her eyes. She blinked them back hard. She'd be furious I let myself get caught. You didn't get caught. Someone betrayed you. His voice hardened. There's a difference. Marlowe wasn't wrong about one thing. She forced herself to meet his eyes. The rogues won't stop, and every day I stay here puts your pack at risk. Then we deal with them. Kael. I'm not letting you run again, Elara. He set down his mug and moved to sit beside her on the couch, close enough that their knees almost touched. I know you're scared. I know every instinct you have is screaming at you to disappear before this gets worse. But running hasn't kept you safe. It's just kept you alone. The words cut deep because they were true. 6 years of moving from territory to territory. 6 years of never making friends, never staying long enough to be remembered. 6 years of surviving but never living. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. How to stay, how to trust that this won't end the way it did with my mother. Neither do I. His honesty surprised her. I've been Alpha King for 8 years, and I still don't know how to protect everyone I care about. I've lost wolves, to rogues, to illness, to challenges I didn't see coming. His jaw tightened. But I'm not losing you. Not without a fight. She searched his face, found nothing but fierce determination. You really mean that? Every word. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand settled over hers. I know you don't trust easily. I know you've been hurt by wolves who should have protected you, but I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I'm different. The mate bond sang at the contact, trying to soothe the jagged edges of her fear. What if I can't give you what you need? The question escaped before she could stop it. What if I'm too broken to be anyone's Luna? His thumb traced circles against her knuckles. What if you're exactly what this pack needs? Someone who understands what it means to lose everything. Someone who fights anyway. That's not strength, that's just stubbornness. Same thing. A hint of a smile touched his mouth. And it's one of the things my wolf recognized in you. You don't quit, even when you probably should. Despite everything, she felt her lips curve. Are you saying I'm difficult? I'm saying you're perfect. The words came out rough, honest. Scared and scarred and still standing. That's the wolf I want beside me. Her breath caught. Kael. I'm not asking you to accept the mate bond right now. His voice dropped. I know that's too much too fast, but I am asking you to stay. Let me show you what it's like to have someone in your corner. Someone who won't sell you out the moment things get hard. She wanted to say yes, wanted it so badly her chest ached. But the memory of her mother's screams still echoed through her nightmares. If I stay, I need you to promise me something. Anything. If it comes down to a choice between me and the pack, she forced the words through clenched teeth. You choose the pack. Every time. His expression went very still. "No, Kael." "No." He cupped her face in both hands, forcing her to see the absolute conviction in his eyes. "I've made that choice before. Sacrificed wolves I cared about, because I thought it would save more lives. And it's hollowed me out piece by piece until there's almost nothing left." His voice cracked. "So, Number, I won't promise to let you die for political convenience. I won't calculate your worth against numbers. You're my mate, and that means you come first. Always." A tear escaped, despite her best effort. He brushed it away with his thumb. "You can't mean that." "I've never meant anything more." He leaned forward until their foreheads touched. "Stay, please. Let me prove to you that not every alpha is a monster, that some of us actually mean it when we say protect." The warmth of his skin against hers made the bond flare bright and desperate. She'd been alone for so long, running for so long. Maybe it was time to stop. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll stay." She felt him exhale, tension draining from his shoulders. "Thank you." They sat like that for a long moment, foreheads pressed together, breathing in sync. Not quite an embrace, but something that felt like the beginning of one. Finally, Kael pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "I want to show you something," he said. "Somewhere my mother used to take me when I needed to remember why this territory was worth fighting for." Curiosity sparked through her exhaustion. "Now?" "Now." He stood and offered his hand. "Before the rest of the pack wakes up and I have to be Alpha King again. Right now, I just want to be Kael. And I want you to see why I fell in love with this land." Elara stared at his outstretched hand. Taking it meant accepting more than just a walk. It meant choosing to trust, choosing to stop running, at least for today. She thought of her mother's final words. "Run, little Silver. Hide your light." But maybe hiding forever wasn't what her mother had wanted. Maybe she just wanted her daughter to survive long enough to find somewhere worth staying. Elara reached out and slid her hand into Kael's. His fingers closed around hers, warm and steady. "Where are we going?" she asked. His smile held promise and secrets. "You'll see." And for the first time in 6 years, Elara let someone else lead her into the unknown. Continuation. Sections 6 to 6. They walked in silence through corridors still quiet with pre-dawn stillness. Kael kept her hand wrapped in his, steady and grounding, as they descended a back staircase that led away from the main pack house. The air grew cooler as they moved deeper into the lower levels. Stone walls replaced polished wood, and the electric lights gave way to softly glowing lanterns that cast dancing shadows. "This part of the pack house is old," Kael said quietly. "Built when the territory was first claimed, almost 200 years ago. My ancestors used these passages during sieges." Elara's fingers tightened around his. "Are we expecting a siege?" "No." He glanced back at her, something soft in his expression. "But I like knowing the old paths are still here. Escape routes if we need them. Ways to move unseen." The words settled something anxious in her chest. He was thinking ahead, planning for worst-case scenarios without drowning in them. They reached a heavy wooden door, reinforced with iron bands. Kael pulled it open, and forest air rushed in. Cool and green and alive with morning birdsong. The passage opened onto a narrow trail that wound through dense trees. Dawn light filtered through the canopy in shafts of gold and amber, painting everything with gentle fire. Kael led her forward without hesitation, following a path only he could see. "How often do you come here?" Elara asked. "Not often enough." His voice carried something wistful. "When I first became Alpha King, I used to walk these trails every morning, clear my head before facing the council. But then, responsibilities piled up. Days blurred together. I forgot how to stop." She understood that. The endless running, the constant vigilance, until you forgot what peace felt like. They climbed higher, the path steepening. Elara's legs burned, but the ache felt good, real. grounding in a way nothing had been since Marlowe dragged her before the council. Finally, the trees opened into a clearing. Elara's breath caught. The glen stretched before them, maybe 50 feet across, carpeted in wildflowers that glowed soft purple in the dawnlight. A stream cut through the center, water singing over smooth stones, and beyond, the land fell away in a breathtaking vista of mountains and sky and endless green. "This is it," Kael said softly. "The place my mother loved most." Elara stepped forward, pulled by something she couldn't name. The air here felt different, lighter, like the world had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. "It's beautiful," she whispered. She used to say this was where she could hear the land breathing. Kael moved to stand beside her, still holding her hand. Where all the noise of pack politics and council demands fell away, and she could just be. Elara closed her eyes and listened. Bird song, water over stone, wind through leaves, and underneath it all, something deeper, a pulse that matched her heartbeat. The territory itself, alive and aware. Her wolf stirred for the first time in months. Not frightened, not desperate to hide, just curious. "Kael," she breathed. "I can feel it. The land? Everything." She opened her eyes, and the world looked sharper, brighter. The pack bonds. The wolves sleeping in the pack house. The patrols running the borders. Her voice shook. "I didn't know I could still do this." His grip on her hand tightened. "You've been suppressing your wolf for so long, she forgot how to reach out. But here," he turned to face her fully, "here, the land is older than fear. Older than rogues and bounties and running. Maybe it's safe enough for her to remember." Tears burned behind Elara's eyes. "What if I can't control it? What if I reach too far and—" "Then I'll pull you back. Simple. Certain. That's what mates do." She stared at him. At this man who'd known her less than 24 hours, and was already offering to anchor her through the variabilities that had gotten her mother killed. "I don't deserve you," she whispered. "You deserve everything." His free hand came up to cup her cheek. "And I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that to you." The mate bond flared hot and desperate between them. Elara's wolf rose closer to the surface, drawn by his nearness and the safety of this hidden glen. "Let her out," Kael murmured. "Just for a little while. Let her run somewhere she doesn't have to hide." Fear spiked through her. "I haven't shifted in 6 years. I don't know if I even can anymore." "Then we'll find out together." He stepped back, giving her space. "I'll shift first. My wolf won't let anything happen to yours." Before she could respond, his eyes flared pure gold. Power rippled through the air, electric and primal. His bones cracked and reformed in the space of 3 heartbeats, smooth and controlled in a way that spoke of decades of practice. Where Kael had stood, a massive charcoal wolf now watched her with glowing amber eyes. He was beautiful, all sleek muscle and lethal grace, built for speed and strength in equal measure, alpha from the tip of his nose to the end of his tail. Her wolf whined with longing. Kael patted closer and nuzzled her hand with his muzzle. The gesture was so gentle, so at odds with his size, that something in Elara's chest cracked wide open. She closed her eyes and reached for the wolf she'd buried so deep. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, a flicker, a spark of recognition. Her wolf, cautious and half-wild from years of forced silence, lifted her head. The question whispered through Elara's mind in images and instinct rather than words. She looked at Kael's wolf, solid and patient beside her. "Trife, asterisk," she answered. The shift took her like a wave. Pain flared through every nerve as bones broke and reformed. Her vision blurred, sharpened, shifted into new spectrums of color and scent. The world tilted and steadied. When Elara opened her eyes again, she stood on 4 legs instead of 2. She looked down at herself and froze. Silver. Her fur gleamed pure silver in the dawn light, almost luminous. Exactly like her mother's had been. Kael's wolf circled her slowly, taking in every detail. Then he pressed his forehead to hers in a gesture of acceptance and wonder. The bond between them snapped fully into place. It hit like lightning, fierce and bright and absolutely certain. Every doubt, every fear, every wall she'd built over 6 years. The bond burned through them all and left nothing but raw recognition. Mine! Asterisk, his wolf rumbled through the connection. Not possessive. Reverent. Yours! Asterisk, her wolf answered before Elara could stop her. Kael pulled back and bounded toward the tree line. He paused, looked over his shoulder, and his meaning was clear. Cost, run with me. Elara's wolf didn't hesitate. She launched forward, and the world exploded into sensation. Wind in her fur, earth solid beneath her paws. The pure joy of movement after years of stillness. Kael ran beside her, matching her pace, not leading, not following, just running together. They raced through the forest, leaping fallen logs and splashing through the stream. Elara's wolf sang with freedom, reveling in the simple act of being alive and whole and not afraid. For the first time in 6 years, she wasn't running from something. She was running with someone. They circled back to the glen as the sun crested the mountains, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. Both wolves shifted back to human form, breathing hard and grinning like children who'd gotten away with something wonderful. Kael reached for her, and this time Elara didn't hesitate. She stepped into his arms and let him pull her close. "You're magnificent," he murmured against her hair. "Absolutely magnificent." She pressed her face against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "The bond? I know." His arms tightened around her. "I felt it too. There's no going back from this." "No?" He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "But I don't want to go back." "Do you?" Elara searched his face, found nothing but honest hope and fierce protectiveness, and the kind of certainty she'd been afraid to want. "No," she whispered. "I don't want to go back either." He smiled, soft and genuine and devastating. Then he lowered his head slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She rose on her toes and closed the distance instead. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, testing. Then the mate bond flared between them, and gentle became something deeper. Kael's hand slid into her hair, cradling her head as he kissed her like she was precious, like she was everything. Elara's fingers gripped his shirt, holding on as the world narrowed to just this. His mouth on hers, his warmth surrounding her, the bond singing with rightness between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kael rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me," he murmured. "Not just in my territory. Stay with me. Let me stand beside you for whatever comes next." Elara's throat tightened. "The rogues, we'll face them together. Your pack might not accept. They'll accept you because you're mine. And because once they see what you can do, what you are, they'll understand why I'd burn the world for you." She pulled back enough to see his face. "You barely know me. I know enough." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "And I want to learn the rest. Every piece of you. Every story. Every fear and hope and dream you've been too afraid to speak out loud." The words settled into her chest like a promise, like something she could actually build a life on. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." His smile could have lit the dawn. "Yeah?" "Yeah." She kissed him again, soft and sure. "Let's try this. Together." Kael's arms wrapped around her, and Elara let herself sink into the embrace. Let herself imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like to stop running. To build something real. To finally come home. The attack came 3 nights later. Elara woke to the sound of shattering glass and the sharp, bitter scent of rogue wolves flooding through the packhouse ventilation. Her wolf surged to the surface before her mind fully caught up, instincts screaming danger. She rolled out of bed in Kael's quarters and grabbed the clothes he'd left folded on the chair. Simple dark pants and a fitted shirt that would shift with her if needed. The door burst open. Kael stood there already, half-dressed, eyes blazing gold, phone pressed to his ear. "How many?" he demanded into the receiver. A pause. His jaw tightened. Lock down the lower levels. Get the young and injured to the reinforced wing. I want every fighter on the perimeter in 2 minutes. He ended the call and looked at her. 12 rogues. Maybe more. They breached the eastern border, and they're heading straight for the pack house. Elara's heart hammered against her ribs. Marlowe sold them a map, probably. Kael moved to the weapons cabinet and pulled out 2 long silver daggers. He handed her one. Can you fight? I've been running for 6 years. She tested the weight of the blade. I know how to survive. That's not what I asked. She met his eyes. Saw the question beneath the question. Will you run again, or will you stand? Her wolf snarled with answer. I can fight, she said. Something fierce and proud flashed across his face. Then, the Alpha King mask settled into place, cold and lethal. Stay close to me. If I tell you to run, you run. Understood? Kael. Understood? His voice cracked with authority. She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she wouldn't leave him to face this alone. But the bond pulsed with his fear. Not for himself, but for her. Understood. She whispered. They ran. The pack house had transformed into controlled chaos. Wolves streamed through hallways, some carrying children, others armed and heading toward defensive positions. Cassia appeared at the main staircase, blood already streaking her cheek. They're at the front entrance, she reported, battering the reinforced doors. We've got fighters holding the perimeter, but they're using some kind of accelerant. Fire. Kael's expression went deadly, trying to smoke us out, or burn us in. Cassia's voice stayed level despite the fear in her eyes. Your orders? Evacuate non-combatants through the lower passages. Send them to the Glen. He glanced at Elara. The one I showed you. It's warded. Old magic. Rogues won't be able to track them there. Elara's breath caught. He was giving away his mother's sanctuary to save his pack. Cassia nodded and disappeared back into the chaos. An explosion rocked the building. The front doors blew inward in a shower of wood and metal. Rogues poured through the gap. They were bigger than normal wolves, twisted by whatever dark magic or force shifts had broken their bond with humanity. Eyes wild, movements jerky and wrong, foam flecking their muzzles. The lead rogue, a massive brown wolf with scars crisscrossing his face, shifted mid-stride. The man who emerged was gaunt and feral, grinning with too many teeth. We're here for the silver blood, he called out. Hand her over and the rest of you live. Kael stepped forward and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. You're trespassing on sovereign pack land. Quote, he said, voice carrying absolute authority. Leave now and I'll consider letting you die quickly. The rogue laughed. Big words for an alpha about to lose everything. His gaze found Elara behind Kael. There she is, pretty little thing, worth every gold piece. Elara's wolf surged forward, hackles raised. She forced herself to stay still, to trust Kael's plan. Last warning, Kael said softly. Or what? Yo? Kael shifted. The transformation was instant and terrible. His wolf exploded from human skin in a blur of charcoal fur and lethal intent. He hit the lead rogue before the man could finish his taunt, jaws closing around his throat. The pack house erupted into violence. Wolves crashed together in a tangle of teeth and claws. Elara saw Cassia take down a rogue twice her size with brutal efficiency. Saw pack fighters she'd barely met throwing themselves into battle to protect their home. A rogue broke through the line and lunged for her. Instinct took over. Elara shifted, the change ripping through her in a heartbeat. Her silver wolf met the attacker mid-leap, and they went down in a snarling heap. He was strong, vicious, fought like he had nothing to lose. But Elara had spent 6 years surviving, and she wasn't running anymore. She twisted, using his momentum against him, and got her jaws around his foreleg. Bit down hard, bone crunched. He howled and tried to shake her off, but she held on, dragging him down. Another rogue came at her from the side. She barely had time to register the threat before Kael's wolf barreled into the attacker, sending him crashing into the wall. The bond flared between them. Together, they fought back to back, covering each other's blind spots. Kael's wolf was lethal precision, every move calculated to disable or kill. Elara's was desperate ferocity, all speed and silver fury. And then she felt it, a pulse of power, deep in her chest where the bond lived. Not hers, not Kael's, something older. The silver blood her mother had died for. It rose through her like a tide, burning through every vein. Her vision sharpened until she could see the pack bonds connecting every wolf in the pack house, glowing threads of loyalty and family that pulsed with shared strength. She could feel injuries. Broken ribs on Cassia, shoulder wound on a young fighter near the stairs, exhaustion weighing down the wolves who'd been holding the perimeter. And beneath it all, she could feel the rogues. Empty spaces where pack bonds should be, hollow, aching, wrong. They weren't just attacking for money. They were attacking because they'd lost everything else. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Her wolf shifted back to human without conscious thought. Elara stood in the center of chaos, silver light bleeding from her skin in visible waves. "Stop," she said. Her voice shouldn't have carried over the sounds of battle. But it did. Amplified by whatever power burned through her blood, the single word rang out like a command. Every wolf froze, pack and rogue alike. Kael's wolf shifted back, positioning himself between her and the nearest threat. Elara, she stepped around him, walked forward until she stood facing the remaining rogues. 5 of them, battered and bleeding, staring at her with something between hunger and horror. "You want silver blood?" she said quietly. "Here I am." One of them lunged. Elara didn't move, just let the power rise and reached for the broken thing inside him where his pack bond used to be. She couldn't fix it. The damage was too old, too deep. But she could soothe it, could ease the aching emptiness that drove rogues to desperation. The wolf collapsed at her feet, whimpering. She looked at the others. "I can't give you back what you lost, but I can make it stop hurting. Just for a moment." They stared at her. Then, one by one, they shifted back to human form and knelt. "Please," one whispered. "We haven't felt pack in years." Elara's throat tightened. She glanced at Kael, found him watching her with something like awe. He nodded once. She reached out with the silver blood power and touched each of them. Gentle, careful, filling the empty spaces with just enough borrowed warmth to remember what pack felt like. They sagged with relief. One actually sobbed. "Go," Kael said, voice still hard but no longer murderous. "Take your dead and leave this territory. If you come back, I won't give you a second chance." They fled, broken and grateful and no longer a threat. Silence filled the pack house. Then Cassia started laughing, exhausted and incredulous and alive. "Did our Luna just end a battle by being compassionate to rogues?" she asked. Kael moved to Elara's side and pulled her against him. She sagged into his warmth, power draining out of her in a rush that left her shaking. "She did," he murmured into her hair, "magnificent and terrifying and perfect." Elara closed her eyes. "There are more coming. The ones who ran will tell others what I can do. Let them come." His arms tightened around her. "We'll face them together, you and me, and every wolf in this pack who just watched you choose mercy when you had every right to choose violence." She pulled back enough to see his face. Found nothing but fierce pride and bone-deep love. "I need to tell them," she said. "The pack, what I am, what it means. Then we'll tell them." He pressed his forehead to hers. Together. Around them, pack wolves were helping the injured, repairing broken doors, checking on the young who'd been evacuated. Normal, everyday tasks that felt like small miracles after chaos. "Home," Elara's wolf whispered. "Menas, menas, 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 menas." And for the first time since her mother died, Elara believed it might be true.